So if you're looking to fix your posture, or if you're a physical therapist or personal trainer looking to help your patients or clients, then this video is for you. What we're going to dive into are 4 posture principles so that we can understand it better and actually start to address the source of the problem. Step number 1, awareness. Before we can genuinely change something, we first need to be aware of it. Think of it like if you had a really bad habit that you were trying to get rid of. How would you ever get rid of that habit if you didn't actually know you were doing that every single day? Once we start to increase our awareness, then we actually have a shot to change, and really to change something long term. So the first thing when it comes to posture is we need to recognize, do we have a bad posture? Do we have a good posture? Are we more forward? Are we more extended? Get a good snapshot as to where we are posturally, so that way we can understand where we need to go. Step number 2, paradigm shift. We need to change our beliefs as to what good posture is. If we took a poll and asked 10 people, I'd be very confident that 10 out of 10 would say and define good posture as looking like this. The problem with this is that when someone is stuck in a posture that's like this, they're going to have just as many problems as someone that's stuck like this. This is what society would traditionally label as bad posture. Well, what's going on here? Hopefully you caught on to the key word, and that key word is stuck. When we are stuck in a position here, in a position here, in a position here, it doesn't matter what position, but when we are stuck, that's when posture really becomes a problem. So what we need to do is go back to our first step, awareness. Do we have the awareness as to, are we stuck in a certain position? That's what we need to start changing, but we don't have the end goal of here. We have an end goal of wanting to be here, wanting to be here, wanting to be here, wanting to be able to move in and out of different postures on a daily, hourly, minute basis. So we need to change our beliefs on what posture is and what's good and what's bad and what the end goal really is. Step number 3, change your language. I find it really helpful for patients that are looking to change their posture to change the posture language. Instead of using posture, I like to change it and implement pattern. Why? Well, consciously or subconsciously, when most people hear the word posture, they automatically go back to this upright military posture as the ideal goal. And as we just previously talked about, that's not what we're shooting for. So just to remove that and to remove it early in the process, use the word pattern. When we start to think about a pattern and when we want long-term postural changes, we ultimately are changing a pattern. And so patients are either in a pattern that's stuck here, they're in a pattern that's here. So what do we need to do? We need to be aware of that pattern. We need to start to change our perspective on what the ideal is and then disrupt that pattern. And that's where all of these components come in, and then exercise. But it's really helpful and I think less confusing for patients to remove posture and implement the word pattern. Step number 4, center of mass restoration. Ultimately, when we are trying to change a pattern, we are restoring center of mass. What does this mean from a posture standpoint? Well, if we go to our classic example of an anterior pelvic tilt, upright military posture, what's happening here from a center of mass standpoint? The anterior pelvic tilt, the flared rib cage, is pushing this person forward. So from an exercise perspective, we need to push them back. How do we do that? Well, we first need to make sure that the rib cage is stacked on top of the pelvis, right? Because when we're in this anterior pelvic tilt, the ribs are flared forward and the pelvis is flared forward. Think of it like this. Ribs are here and pelvis is here. We need to first stack the pelvis and the rib cage. In doing so, we're already bringing that person back, or their center of mass back. From there, we then want to train that. We want to load that. So exercises that challenge them to maintain this stacked rib cage and pelvis position. What are they going to want to do? They're going to want to go into their norm, right? This is their norm. So we need to choose exercises, and this is where it gets specific to the person that you're working with or your pattern. But we need to train them how to maintain that and how to maintain a center of mass that is more back. That's how we start to create long-term pattern or posture changes. Now let's go from the other perspective. If we're working with someone that has more of the hunched back, rounded over position, it's just the opposite. When we're in this rounded over position, we're in a posterior pelvic tilt, the ribs are coming down, we are getting pushed back. So the center of mass is more posterior. So if we want to change a pattern and we do so with exercise, we need to choose exercises that actually pushes them forward. So what does that look like? Well, we first need to get them stacked, right? In both examples, we're looking to get someone stacked. Why? Because we need to be in a good position before we start to retrain a new pattern. So once we're in this stacked position, if we're here from a rib cage and pelvis perspective, we need to get here. Once we're here, then we can train exercises like hinged base exercises, exercises that kind of push them forward. But here's the thing, we're not looking for them to lose this stacked position. So that's why I like to label this and think of it as a center of mass restoration, because whether their center of mass is going forward or it's going back, we need to stack the pelvis and rib cage, get them in a good center of mass, and then we need to train them to maintain that. Over time, that training becomes a new pattern. When we have a new pattern, that person's posture is going to change. Ultimately, what have we done and created for this individual? We have increased their movement variability. They're now not stuck here. They now can get here if they want, but they also can get here, and they also can get here. They don't have a limited movement capacity. They have movement variability, and that's how you start to really change a pattern and change posture long term.